Most of us treat our pets like one of the family, and we wouldn't dream of deliberately making them suffer. But every year, the Scottish SPCA saves thousands of domestic pets, farm animals, and wildlife from harm and danger. Now the charity is opening its doors to reveal how they rescue Scotland's abused, abandoned and injured animals. Coming up, what spooked these horses in Old Meldrum?
They're running wild, they're too het up, they're snorting, they're not going to get near.
And whales are in danger off South Uist.
If they all beached at the same time, we would not be able to cope.
Ragwort. It's a poisonous weed which thrives on wasteland and roadside verges all over the country. It can also spread into fields. Ragwort is bitter, and most animals will avoid eating it if they have an alternative source of food. But if it's cut, it becomes sweeter and more attractive to livestock, especially horses. Senior Inspector Alison Simpson's been informed horses are grazing in this field near Old Meldrum in Aberdeenshire.
Looking at this field, obviously we can see where the ragwort's all been cut here, but in another few days as that yellow dies off, you could actually be forgiven unless you come out and walked in here from standing at the gate saying, oh, that field looks okay for horses. But the fact, like I say, that all this ragwort's been cut and is lying, it's highly dangerous for them.
Alison's also been told one of the horses has a gash in its leg, so she needs to check that out as well. But first, she's got to get near to them.
Hey girlies! Hey girlies! They're running wild, they're too het up, they're snorting, they're not going to get near them. There's obviously nothing fatally wrong with any of them that is going to cause me to say, right, I need to get a hold of one of them tonight to get a vet to it.
The horses are obviously well cared for by their owner. But if they remain in this field and eat the cut ragwort, there could be long-term health issues for them, like progressive liver failure, which can lead to death.
What I'll do tonight is I'll get a hold of the owner and get him to move them into the first field because there's not the same ragwort in there. I'll get him to move them in there tonight and make arrangements to come back and see him tomorrow morning, and then I'll get a close inspection at the rest of the horses.
Edinburgh's popular Newtown area. A cat is stuck up a tree. It's the biggest cliché in the animal rescue book. 3-year-old Inca is a house cat that normally doesn't get out. But her owner Rebecca spotted she was missing before breakfast and raised the alarm. She called the fire brigade, but they don't tend to rescue cats from trees. So Rebecca got in touch with the Scottish SPCA. They also don't get cats down from trees, unless it's injured or trapped. And that's what Animal Rescue Officer Mary Stewart is here to find out.
Usually they just think, I'm so scared, and then, you know, after a night out she's cold and things, and then in the morning she might come down. It is hard because I know that you want her down now, and I wish there was a way, but I think at least it's a high tree, but at least she won't have to jump from a height to get down. And then there's the shed there as well, so that's good. So I reckon overnight, give her a bit of like nice smelly food underneath, and she's like, you know, she'll be able to know that there are mums down there and the food's down there and things, and just see if she'll come down. Thankfully, anxious Rebecca didn't have long to wait. Within a couple of days, Inca managed to scramble her way down safely from the tree. If we hear that a cat is up a tree that has been there for some time, we will go and assess the situation just to check that it's not in any danger. However, we do find that they do come down themselves, usually on their own accord. South Uist off the west coast of Scotland. Though it's just an hour by plane from Glasgow, it feels wild and remote. The island in the Outer Hebrides is mostly known for its plants and bird life. Windswept South Uist has hit the headlines for another reason. A large pod of long-finned pilot whales has strayed into Loch Carnan. They were spotted by workers on one of the island's fish farms. It looks like they're in bad shape. The Scottish SPCA's team were quickly on the scene to assess how serious the situation was.
About 20 of them had wounds to their head and to their noses and things like that, and we got photos sent off to the specialists that are here just now. We've just been monitoring the positions that they've been moving to. The concern obviously was what they were going to strand.
Stranding is just about the worst thing that can happen to a whale. It occurs most often when the animal is sick or injured, but it can take place when the weather is particularly bad, or the whale's sonar navigation system goes wrong, like here on a beach in New Zealand. This normally quiet part of the island is turning into quite a spectator area, as locals and tourists try to find the best view of the unfolding drama. Mass strandings are rare, but with up to 100 animals in this pod, rescuers and onlookers are fearing a beaching that could lead to dozens of deaths.
There's quite a lot of whales here. Exact numbers are difficult to tell at the moment, but we estimate at least 60, possibly more. And if they do strand, we're going to need as much equipment as possible.
If there is a stranding, the Scottish SPCA will need all the help they can get. British divers Marine Life Rescue have just arrived with as much equipment as they could carry.
We should just go round, A, to check that there's nothing on the shores, and B, just to try and identify any sites where, if they do strand, they can get their pontoons launched. So that's the best way to do it. I've been an inspector here for 21 years and I've never seen this number of pilot whales gathered in such a small area. So potentially, if the worst scenario is that if they all beached at the same time, we would not be able to cope. We only have so many flotation pontoons from the British divers, and we would not have the manpower to cope with such an incident. You can just never be sure with these things, can you? No. They can go one way or the other so quickly. It can just change in an hour, no?
After almost an hour of searching, there's still no sign of any whales. Even in the shallow waters where they'd first been spotted.
Yeah, are you prepared to go quite far out?
Aye, as far as we need to go.
Good job. This is the inlet that they'd come into yesterday. So as you can see, there's quite a drop in the tide. You can imagine this full to the top of the high water mark, and this is where they were all swimming here. You can imagine all that whales in there would have looked really quite impressive, you know, having them all in such a tight area. No wonder my auxiliary was alarmed, to say the least.
If the whales come back here and stranded, it would be a tragedy. Senior Inspector Alison Simpson's in the office early. Last night she discovered cut ragwort in a field where horses are being kept. The weed is toxic and can be fatal if the animals eat it.
And it was to get your opinion on...
Before Alison goes to see the owner about moving his horses,
OK.
She wants to get the advice of a vet.
Superb. Thank you very much, Bruce. Catch you later. Bye. Ideally, he would like to see that horses off that field today, because it's obviously so dangerous. As soon as the ragwort loses its bitter flavour, the horses may eat it. I'll do a welfare notice giving him till Monday, and the vet's fully supportive that if the horses are still in that field on Monday, he'll come along and say, right, this is not acceptable and we'll have to get them off of there ourselves.
If the owner doesn't move his horses by Monday, he could be charged under the Animal Health and Welfare Scotland Act for keeping them in a field full of poisonous ragwort. South Uist just off the west coast of Scotland, and it's day 2 in the search for stranded whales. The weather's closing in. Even some of the island's hardiest inhabitants aren't used to this. But the terrible conditions won't stop the hunt for the stricken pod, and Senior Inspector Callum Watt sets off to check the headland where the animals were last seen. Callum's worked on a lot of whale strandings in the Hebrides since he arrived on the islands from Aberdeen more than 2 decades ago. But he's never been involved in as big a potential disaster.
I was out at 5 o'clock this morning and they were much further out. They've come in a good bit now, quite close into this shore here. Who knows what they're up to?
Whales can be inquisitive. These ones are spy hopping, bobbing up out of the water to have a look at something. It could be the shoreline, a boat, or other whales. They're using their buoyancy to keep their heads above the waves, a little bit like humans treading water.
This is really unusual to see this amount of pilot whales this close. It's just concerning that the rocks are just here and we've got this massive pod so close in.
The story is developing fast.
Excuse me.
And Callum's fielding media calls.
Hello? I don't know if you can hear them, they're that close. Definitely moving, and I'm as closest to them as that I've been.
And giving interviews at the scene.
And how did they seem today? Did they seem in any distress?
Just a few minutes ago, they had come in really quite close, maybe about 70, 80 feet. It's a total waiting game. These are wild animals in their own environment. Nobody can predict what they're going to do.
Old Meldrum near Inverurie in Aberdeenshire. Senior Inspector Alison Simpson's arrived to serve a welfare notice on the owner of horses left in a field full of ragwort that's been cut down. She asked the owner to move the horses, but he hasn't done it.
Right, they're still in another field. I see Mr. White's just up here, so I'll just go and have a word with him. We'll take it from there. Through our concerns, we'll get them through this side and get a look at the horses.
It's a serious situation. If the horses aren't moved, Mr. White could be charged with causing unnecessary suffering. But Alison doesn't want it to come to that.
Right, I see you and I got them back through in here. That field there is yellow with ragwort.
Yes,
Mr. White, right? I've spoke to a vet this morning, Mr. White. He said the fact that it was cut yesterday, that horses need to be out of there today.
Well, what do you think we're here for?
Yeah, right. Now, they need to be out of here if I'm going to give you a welfare notice and you need to get somewhere else for them before the start of next week. If it's not, I'm going to have a vet out come and look at this ground and tuck it for there. I mean, that feels just a death trap for them the way that it is with the grazing in there now.
I'll take a pickup in, I'll put them in here, I'll go around every bit of that park with rakes. So I'll be in here with a truck and I'm going to clean everything up.
Yeah. I mean,
and
if
you
they
can come in here and look at it when it's cleaned up.
Mr. White understands the danger of ragwort and seems to be willing to move the horses.
We'll go in and take a look at them, and then if we can get them back in here, and then we'll do the paperwork for there.
So they should be out of danger for now. The Royal Highland Show at Ingliston near Edinburgh is one of Scotland's biggest annual events with more than 200,000 visitors over 4 days. It's where you can see some of the country's premier livestock. And there's big money to be won if an animal is judged to be best in show. For Senior Inspector Bill Little and Inspector Leanne McPake, it's a chance to get away from the types of cases they usually see. The quality here is second to none.
We're here today to look at some good stock. And our job, it's mainly cruelty cases we're looking at. Today is the elite of the elite.
Big bulls, so nice big beasts.
Right, I'll put this on for weaving.
Animal Rescue Officer Connie O'Neill wants to use the show to get the Scottish SPCA's message across. In amongst all the magnificent beasts, there's still a chance of finding something amiss.
Oh, that's got a sore one on its side there.
Caught itself in the gate.
Oh.
These things happen. The vet sewed it up, but it stretched a wee bit. We'll go back.
Seen the stitches there.
When we get home and we'll get it redone.
It'll not belong in healing up.
No, I wouldn't think so. It'll be. It's quite clean. You know,
It's clean, yeah.
Is she on antibiotics, I take it?
Yes.
And it'll need to be open for it to drain anyway.
Yes.
The wound healed up well over the next few weeks, and it was the only issue the inspectors came across all day. And what about Connie? Well, it just seemed right that she spent her afternoon checking dogs hadn't been left locked in hot cars. Back in Old Meldrum, Mr. White has accepted there's a risk to his horses from the toxic ragwort in their field. Alison's persuaded him to move them into another field that's clear of the weed.
My big problem here, unfortunately for you, is when I arrive, they're cutting the ragwort. That's what the issue is. I've got no issue with the horses themselves.
Right, that ragwort will all be cleaned up. Yeah. The tractor's been in and cut down the ragwort, right? And I know it's a killer to horses when it starts dying off, right? My agreement is my grandsons will come in with a pickup and clean all the land up. These horses is bull fat and the foals is the same. You can run water off their back. They're in so good a condition. And they'll like cut through the winter as well.
So it would worry you, the ragwort?
Of course it does. Anybody with half a brain would worry you if you can't hang with animals.
So there's no need for any action to be taken against Mr. White. And the horses are safe. Night has fallen over South Uist, and there's been a significant development. A dead whale has been discovered, and the Scottish SPCA team is on the move again. Senior Inspector Callum Watt and the island's auxiliary Amanda MacDonald are on their way out to the power station near Loch Carnan, where the drama began 2 days ago.
The British divers are out in a rib just off the headland here, and that's where the dead whale is.
A young one, we think it is. And that's why we think they're over.
And just have to go and see what the story is. And there's some whales up off there.
Pilot whales form strong family bonds, and it's possible they've followed the injured animal onto wherever it's been stranded.
They'll probably be taking it into the harbour here beside the power station. I think there's a bit of a slipway there, they might manage to get it up. So the chances are this animal will be examined and postmortemed, and it might give us some sort of clue as to what's going on.
The dead whale's been towed up to the harbour slipway at Loch Carnan. The media, who've been following the story, want to know what happened.
We need to do a postmortem now tomorrow morning. It could be that this was the cause of all the issues that we've got here, but we need to know if this animal was sick or has it died because it's stranded. If it's died because it's stranded, it's possible that the other ones that we've seen with body damage were stuck in the same point.
This is our first dead whale of the pod. Who's to say that there isn't more out and about, you know? It's as simple as that.
The whale needs to be pulled onto the slipway so it can be tied up, ready for tomorrow morning's postmortem.
They were this side yesterday morning, remember? Yeah. But they weren't over there.
But it could have drifted.
Mm-hmm.
If it died
yes,
in the water,
yes,
maybe if it died in the water.
I mean, so we don't know if it's a live stranding or we don't know if it died in the water. This could just be the beginning of a lot more of these. Maybe just a one-off, we just don't know. There is injuries in the head here, and I think I can more or less identify this with some of the ones that we took photographs of. The vet will post-mortem it tomorrow and have a look and see whether it was a live stranded, did it die in the water, then get washed ashore, did it come ashore in a live strand and then die.
The day ends as it began.
Been found dead. But
with Callum briefing the media.
This could be the first of many, we hope not, but you know, the vets will now have to.
The next morning, and Callum is up early. Overnight, the pods disappeared from the waters around South Uist.
It's sad that we had one dead whale, but the rest of them can't be found. They've gone, hopefully they've gone deep sea, and people have been looking for them where they were last seen yesterday. They're not there, and hopefully that's them back into safer water, and that's the end of this sort of possible whale stranded scenario.
The postmortem revealed the most likely cause of the pilot whale's death was an infection. The rest of the pod swam out of danger and back to sea.